Paula, do you want to get us started? Looks like we got 14 people on. Is everyone
Yep, I
ready?
will. And Jessica's going to be joining us shortly. She's one of the people I wanted to share today. And then Kristen is also going to share. Kristen, why don't you explain kind of what, how you moved into this role and what you did to create relationships with the agents?
Sure. Yeah, so I'm on a team here in Indianapolis, and I started in real estate just over 3 years ago, a little over 3 years. I joined as an agent first and did that for about a year, and then transitioned into an office role, which my rainmaker knew that was my goal. So I did transaction coordination for about a year and a half specifically, and then here within the last 6 months or so, transitioned into taking on more responsibilities in the operations admin world, and kind of stepping up into more of a leadership role. So it's been a busy couple of years, and I have my 5-month-old here next to me. That's why I keep looking down. Sorry, but so he keeps me busy too. But yeah, as far as connecting with our agents, we've had typically right around like 7 or 8 agents on the team, and I mean, anything from like I started having one-on-ones with them, and I did, I know one thing Paula wanted me to talk about was doing the motivation interview with each of them, which is part of the KPA process. And so I did that with each of them to really figure out what motivates each of them individually. You know, going into it, I definitely had kind of a preconceived notion of what motivated each of them, and some of it was accurate and some not so much. So that was really helpful to uncover some things that I can now use in our weekly one-on-ones to really help get them moving.
The reason I wanted Kristen to share this is because before we can go big, we need to go small. And if we don't know what our agent's big why is, like, we don't know what motivates them. And so if you have a bunch of agents on the team and you're having all these contests, and yet the contests aren't what's motivating them, it's not going to move them forward. So knowing your agents and what motivates them on an individual level is huge, as well as doing those weekly one-on-ones.
Yeah, I completely agree with that, Paul, and it definitely is knowing that and what is triggering what your team. I also think there's an opportunity to get creative with the contest, right? So part of that is why Alicia is on the call with us here. Her team, the guidance team, really successful in what they're doing, on track to do the 225 transactions, their goal this year. Came up with a brilliant contest to move activities, right? Because that's why we need the motivation. It's not about the end result. It's about the activities and what we need to adjust to make sure that we hit there. So, Alicia, if you don't mind, could you share with us your contest and what that looked like?
Yeah, not a problem. Just butchered a couple of names. I am Alicia with the Rhonda Gustitis team in Florida. And one contest that has really gone really well for us, we started with Spread the Love, Not the Germs, and then it kind of turned into just Operation Spread the Love. We did it, this is our 2nd month that we did it, and it's really brought kind of a whole new life into the team. Every morning we meet and we do our power up still via Zoom. Half of us are now in the office and some of us are still at home. But we do that every morning with our one thing for the day, and also our positive quote or affirmation that we all do together, and some pump up music. So we do that every morning, but what's really kind of sparked it was the Operation Spread the Love contest. With that was basically you have one day, and it was funny because since this is our 2nd time, they're like, is it cheating if I get everything together the night before so that I'm ready for the contest? Because I'm really going to win this time. And so I was like, it's not cheating, but it only counts if you contact them that day. So you can get all your stuff together. That's not a problem. But yes, no cheating in terms of it only counts if you contact them that one day. So it's really built up a really big hype on our team, which is kind of surprising because it's really just lead gen and they just get excited about it. I guess it's because the admin take part in it too. So basically we made it into kind of a point system, and whoever gets the most points wins. You get a one point for a contact, another point if it's a full contact. No points count unless it's documented in our CRM. We did 2 points if you send a send out card. And basically what we've been doing with our send out cards is, because these are all of our friends and family and really close people that we know, we're going on Facebook and pulling photos off of Facebook and sending them to them. And the response from that has been crazy. Everyone is like, I still have your card on my fridge. And they're taking pictures of it, posting it on Facebook. Oh my gosh, I can't believe you sent this to me. And it's really been incredible, the results we've been getting from those personalized cards. And the fridge pictures, everyone likes to send pictures of their card on their fridge. And even people said when we first began doing send out cards, still whenever we see them, I still have your card on my fridge. So that's been a big thing for us. So that's 2 points. We did every, if you enter 10 contacts into the database, you get 5 points. And we added this one this time, if you set an appointment that day from one of the leads that you contact, you got 10 points. And then 5 points if someone posts a review. So it really motivated our team. We ended up getting over 152 contacts, 63 full contacts, sent out 32 cards. We only had 5 new additions, which we had a lot more the first time. I think people were trying to just stick with the people they already had in their database to get more points. And we ended up getting 4 appointments and 2 reviews. So pretty good for one day, and they all are just so psyched. And we just post kind of like every couple hours the leaderboard. Everyone has a spreadsheet, so it posts like a graph and shows where the points are. So it's kind of fun. They can see everyone's points moving up and down as they make more points. So it's worked really well for our team, and just surprising because all we're doing is checking in, seeing how they're doing, and which is just the lead gen that we're supposed to do anyways. But they absolutely loved it and have really created a competition.
So what period of time did you guys do this over?
They have 1 day.
So you've done it 2 times now?
Mm-hmm.
1 day.
And that was for the results from well, I guess we did that last week.
That's awesome. So sounds like you got a lot of engagement.
For sure. I don't know. I guess because the admin are also in it, that it makes it more of a competition than just usually our sales force that usually do the competition. So it really engaged the entire team, and our team is very competitive and likes to egg each other on. So it worked pretty well for us.
That's one of the things I thought was brilliant about it, and what coming up with it is getting the admin a chance to actually win, right? Which, like you said, in most of our teams I've experienced, and I'm sure we all have too, that doesn't happen. Like we have to almost separate them, and there's 2 separate contests, or we try to, I don't know, add in some crazy rule so they can win, where this is pretty straightforward, that you do the activities, you still can win. What other stuff have you guys found that's worked for motivating? So we've heard a great contest, or you can ask questions about that contest. I would love to hear more about the motivation conversation. Like how did that go? What did we ask? What are we seeing?
I wanted Jessica to share today also.
Yeah. So mine wasn't really motivating conversations. Our team is very competitive as well. So it was, we did prize competitions, focused around, we had one that focused around the end game of getting escrows and getting closings. So we got this whiteboard multicolor spinny wheel with like 14 different slots, and we wrote on different prizes. So anything from gas cards or gift cards to their favorite restaurants, or down to small things like getting to pick which open house they were going to do first pick on open houses. So anytime they opened an escrow during that week, we'd do this at our Friday sales meeting. If they opened an escrow or if they closed an escrow, they got to spin the wheel and get the prize then. So that was kind of rewarding them for the end game. And then to motivate for lead gen and tracking, we had a quarterly competition with points. So points were affixed to lead gen activities, like calls got 1 point. If they talked to people, it was 5 points. If they door knocked, it was a certain amount of points. If they talked to someone at the door, it was worth more points. If they did an open house, how many people they got for the open house had different points. If they actually got the contact information from someone, it had good conversations that had more points. So it got them to track so they could, we could follow that in CTE or whatever we're using at the time. And then also they got to rack up the points, and then at the end of each quarter we had a major prize. So one of them was a weekend getaway trip for 2. One of them was an Apple Watch, just big large ticket items that they worked all quarter for. That seemed to work really well.
Awesome.
What are some things some of you guys are doing that we haven't heard from yet?
So Liz posted a question in the chat box. I don't know, maybe she's not in a place where she could talk, but this one I think was to Alicia, and it was, what's the difference between a contact and a full contact?
Contact means you talk to them. We did allow text messaging and Facebook messaging, still counted as if you had a conversation with them. And a full contact means that in the database, we have their phone number, their email, their address. What else am I missing? Basically their entire contact full in our database. Because I don't know about you guys, but our database is not 100%. So something we're all, I'm sure, working on. So they got rewarded if that contact was 100% full.
That's awesome.
It was shocking how many friends and family members, even my sister, she moved and we didn't have her new address. And so definitely something just to shine a big light, especially on all the people who we're close with.
I think it can be helpful too to make like contests or just like my conversation with the agents as personal as possible. So like when I did those motivation interviews, one of our agents kept using basketball analogies like the entire time. He was a big Kobe Bryant fan, and like he would talk about our team as if we were a basketball team on the court, and if one agent was struggling, how can the rest help, to pick up ground. And so from then on out, I'll go back to, are you going to make a game-winning shot today? Are you going to close that deal? And just take it back to something that I know is really personal and meaningful for him.
So what did that conversation look like? That's what I'm interested in, because I think it's definitely worth having. What did it look like for you? Did you have bullet pointed questions or just went with it?
I did the whole 4 quadrant, or not quadrant, but 4 quadrants, 4 priorities in their life. So job, family, and then let them pick the other 2 priorities, and then kind of walked through, okay, we're 5 years out from now. If you're looking back on the last 5 years in this job realm of your life, what does that look like for you to say those were an awesome 5 years? So really figuring out, if they were looking back 5 years from now, what does great look like in each of those sectors of his life, and how does that make him feel, and really pulling out as much as I could as to things that were important to him.
Awesome. So you actually went through the career visioning motivation side of it.
Yeah.
So for those of you 411ing your agents, how many of you have also done the motivational interview for those that you 411?
I've done it with the majority of our agents, because we do have some agents that happened before KPA, which it would be a good thing to go back into that since they didn't get to go through all of that. But a lot of our newer agents, we've done it with them as well.
So just Alicia and Kristen are motivational interviewing the team they 411?
Yeah, I've done ours too.
And I'm sorry, was it Jessica? I just see Zuber, like, and Zuber team. Oh, great. So our panel. So panel, talk to us about the importance of knowing the motivation of your people that you're 411ing and how that plays out in your weekly, like your 411 conversations.
Well, I just think it's really good to know what's going to motivate them, what drives them to where when they are slacking off or having excuses, I can always bring it back around to the motivation of what they're doing. For example, one of them is he wants to do a lot less but make a lot more. And so I talk about that number. He's very numbers driven, so I bring that number up to him. I have one woman who she has this idol of another agent in our area, and she wants to be like her and be self-supported, and it's very important to her to be a strong woman. And so I bring her name up a lot, and we talk about her, and it just kind of re-energizes her to keep her eye on her ultimate goal.
Yeah, same. I mean, I feel like it's just a lot of not reminding them of what their big why is, but kind of, making sure that that's a primary topic of conversation on a regular basis so that they don't forget it. They know that we haven't forgotten it, that we as a team want to help them reach their goal or reach whatever goals that they have set for themselves. So also reminding them that we're here to support them, whatever that looks like. And doing our best to do that. Another one of our agents, he talked a lot about giving back to the community and wanting to contribute in various ways. So, there was one point where we said that, for this time period, whatever activity you do, we would donate X amount to a charity of your choice. To kind of motivating him in that way by pulling on that piece of his life. And that worked really well. So just letting them know that we're here to support them, towards that goal.
Gary says we can't motivate people, we can motivate people. And I always think about that because when you're helping them see the world through their eyes and the activities through their eyes, you're motivating them, you're not motivating them.
Yeah, what I heard you guys saying was you basically let your agent's motivation, because you know it, you let it do the heavy lifting for you. So then all you have to do is ask them questions and remind them what they said that they wanted in the first place. I think that's great. Anything
different, Alicia?
Well, honestly, I feel like I need to go back and read them all because I have not been using that as a big enough tool, and especially the ones that I haven't gone through it with. A lot of our seasoned agents, I really haven't gone through that to be able to use it. So I think that was more of a big aha, like I really need to go pull those out for our next 411 meeting to make sure that we are motivating properly.
Do you think you would have any pushback if you brought them through that activity?
No, our team's pretty open. More just scheduling, make sure, and since most of our agents are coming into the office now, so I think it wouldn't be too hard to get that done. Even through a Zoom meeting would still be pretty easy. Plus, everybody likes to talk about what they love, or what motivates them and what they like. So I don't think it would be that hard.
Ray, you posted something in the chat box. What question around that do you have for the panel or for the group at large?
I don't know that I have a question. It's not, I don't know. I think that it would be easier to get around that mentality of I shouldn't have to gamify lead gen. That's literally the number one thing, but that it is your job, right? Like if you don't want to lead gen, why are you in real estate? It doesn't compute for me, literally. But that mentality is also held by my rainmaker. And so like we don't embrace the gamification or encouragement of somebody doing their job. You either do your job or you find a new one. Like, why are you here?
How
You
many,
guys are very literal. It's true.
how
It's
many,
literally the first thing that an agent is responsible for. Lead gen, lead follow-up. Like, why is this a thing that we have to encourage you to do? I don't get
For
it.
me, I think it's hilarious that they think it's different. That this day of contacting your database is different than every other day. I don't understand it.
It
But,
also drives
I mean,
me
it
crazy that they
excites them.
seem to be less likely to call the people that they already know, right? Like they don't want to call their sphere. I'm like, do you like these people? Do you want them to help you be successful in life? Do you want to help them reach their dreams of home ownership or investing or whatever? Like, why is this something that like you have to be told? I don't get it.
Ray, you just hit on something though. How many agents do you think got into real estate because they wanted to lead gen?
It's not necessarily that they want to lead gen, but they want to help people is what I keep getting from people. So I'm sorry, but if you want to help people, you have to talk to them. You have to connect with them. And if you can't do that, then you're not going to help anybody. You can't help anybody sitting at your house in front of your computer screen. Like they literally go hand in hand. So don't think of it as lead gen. Think of it as like you're helping people, and that's getting you to your goal. And like, I mean, we framed it that way, but I don't know.
So Ray, have you ever lead gen for 4 hours and sat there on a dialer waiting for people to pick up the phone to have a conversation?
But it's not about that, right? It's not. We don't care if you don't want to sit there and call people, right? That's not what counts as lead gen for us. If you want to like go and sit at a coffee shop and like generate conversations with people in person, obviously like you can't do that now. But if you want to go and have, you know, like 6 or 5 or whatever open houses throughout the week and you want to talk to people that way, cool, great. Just literally go talk to people. I don't care how you do it. We don't care how you do it. You don't want to use your dialer, don't use your dialer. Like just contact people. You cannot help them if you do not talk to them. I cannot make it more simple. I literally cannot. And I'm not, myself and my rainmaker refuse to treat them like children. We're not going to reward them for not doing their job, right? Like,
And it's not about rewarding them. How many open houses have you ever done?
I am not allowed to hold open houses. I'm not licensed and we're in Texas, so I literally can't do any of these activities. I can call my sphere and talk to them, but like I can't do anything else. I call our past clients all the time and I just ask them how they're doing. Like I've done that.
Yeah.
It's not like my favorite activity, but I'm also not a social butterfly, right? Like I'm a super high D. I'm like, let's get this done. Give me like the checklist and get it over with. If lead gen is the first thing on my list, then that's what I'm going to do.
And I'm playing devil's advocate with you here.
No, for sure.
Because a lot of what they're doing isn't easy.
No,
You're
absolutely
open
not.
houses, you're setting 40 signs out for 2 hours. Like, is that fun? Is picking up.
Our agents actually love holding open houses. That is their thing, right? So like, cool, great, go do that. But like right now, we don't know how to encourage them because they can't go do open houses, right? So it's like, I don't know, if you can't do an open house, you gotta call people.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there, but the thing is, you know, when you have super different personalities, like you said something interesting there, because you said if I've got a checklist and the first thing on it's lead gen, I'm gonna go do it. And 100%, if you were an agent, Ray, like I actually know you, like I know Ray, you would get it done. Like it'd be done first thing in the morning, you'd have it done, it'd be perfectly in command. Yeah. But you've got the check, like that's your thing, right? Like you got a checklist.
That is how it works.
I also have a friend who's a buyer's agent, and she is a like pardon my French, she's a kick-ass buyer's agent. But if you tell her to go like Legion for 2 hours, she's probably going to go cry in the corner for 2 hours. Like if she can't, I do not understand her. Like we have so many differences. I'm like, just do it. By the time you finish crying about it, you could have like already done it.
Yeah.
But her personality is really different. And yet if I turn it into a game, she's that super high I, or I suggest something for her, like a scavenger hunt at Home Depot, suddenly she comes back with like 5 new buyers. So it's the checklist versus the gamification as motivation, right? Like fun versus a task list are 2 different kind of motivational strategies. Yours would be, if you don't tell me what to do, I can't freaking do it, right? Like if you went into a job and someone was like, I don't know, just kind of make stuff sort of good. I'm like confused about what you should do. You'd be like, that's the worst job
I
ever.
instantly have 20 questions. Yep.
Yeah, give me, and I'll do them. But agents, a lot of agents are kind of the opposite. They're like, I want to cry when I see a checklist. So it's just different. It's like a different personality type issue, you know. Kaylee's laughing. She gets it. She told me.
Yeah, and I mean, one, I appreciate we're having this conversation because it's a real conversation, right? So it's like, it's awesome to have it and that someone said it and brought it up because it's a real struggle. And I think our challenge, right, one of the things we learn is when it comes to people and leadership, the first thing we got to do is look at ourselves, all of us, right? And Ray, I'm with you. Like thinking about gamifying stuff will keep me up at night. I'm like, that is ridiculous when people have got like jobs on the line, right? Like I just don't get it. And at the same token, right, I got to look in the mirror at myself and remember that through this, right, people have two things. They're either running from comfort or they're running into an uncomfortable situation, right? They're either going to lean into it or they're not. And sometimes for especially salespeople in there, hearing that rejection over and over is the worst thing. Where I don't know you, but I almost can feel your energy through here. If someone says like, they could hang up on me all day and emotionally, it's not really going to affect me. I'm like, just give me the list. I'll move on to the next one, right?
Okay, great. That one got checked off real quick. Who's next?
Yeah, that's draining for them. And not to mention the fact they're facing that if they do this and fail, they now are missing income. And that can actually paralyze someone into going back to their comfort zone, which is the very thing that's hindering their success. And they can't get out of their way. So part of that, I think, is in our own leadership, and myself too, is reminding us, what do we need to do and who do we need to change? What are the conversations we need to grow into and create to help support them and get out of their way? Because if I go right to them and I'm like, you're afraid, you're going to fail, that's not going to go over so much, right? That's not going to go well. And yet, in most cases, that's what it is. Like, they don't want to make the calls because of, we hear it all the time. Well, the one person I talked to yesterday hung up to me. And we're like, you literally were there for like an hour. Like, how did one person upset you? And that happens. It happens, right? So what does that look like? And I think that's where the gamification comes in. You're right. And it's helping them get out of their way because that's the leader we need to be to do that.
And I've seen it with sorry.
I was just going to say, I read a book, and I wish I could remember what book it was, and it talked about gamification, how it works because it boosts everyone for that one day. And then it actually makes it harder for them to do it the next day because it's like they got this reward and now they're not going to get the reward. So I'm just wondering if anybody's actually had sustained success with the gamification and how that worked.
We've done.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Kelsey, or whoever else was talking.
I was just going to say, because I was going to mention this earlier, I did a competition all of 2019. It was super cute. I made like the cutest board. It was football themed. Every quarter we had a winner. We gave out a $250 check. Like, who wouldn't want that? And it didn't motivate the agents any differently than in 2020, and I'm not doing any competition right now. So I think that you have to be careful for it getting stale too. Like, if you always have the competition going, it's like, okay, like it just gets kind of boring. So I like the idea of shorter ones and more simple ones, which is what I'm working on now. But I'll just say in 2019, I did the same competition all year round and it was not good. So if you're doing that, I'd recommend switching it up.
We've tried to gamify all this stuff 1,000 ways. Like, and we've done a lot of them, and they have varying success. And what we find is that after 1,000 of these games, the people that actually benefit from this gamifying of lead gen are the same people who were doing lead gen without it. And so us, we've mostly used our learning. We still do the gamified little contests and things like that. But for us, what we've done is we've locked in on exactly who we want to hire, and we're not hiring anybody that doesn't fall within that category anymore because we're tired of pulling people rather than having them run alongside us.
I was going to absolutely say that and agree, right? That it comes down to really that's where the point is. Are we hiring your culture? And our culture are those standards. And the standards we have, are we holding those or do we have suggestions? And if we have someone that's beyond the 90 days who isn't executing, they're out of culture. And if we haven't done anything about it, so are we. Because now we're into suggestions and not standards, right? Because standards are something that there's a threshold to.
It's a great point, like Thomas and Zach. And I do think you have to be careful when you talk about gamification. I think it was the happiness advantage that talks about Sean Acor's research that talks about how when you're like a company and you say, oh, our people are they're depressed, they're not motivated. Let's think what we could give them. Let's give them free yoga. And then everybody's like, oh my gosh, free yoga, that was the most amazing thing. And they're super motivated. And they're like, this is amazing. We love this company. And after like 2 months of free yoga, they're like, we don't understand why we don't have more stuff again, because we're the most amazing employees ever and we should have stuff. So they go right back to the same circle, because if you just like give them stuff, our ability as humans to like adopt and expect the new normal is insane. Like we do it instantly. And so I think to like Alicia's point, like when you've got a target you want to hit, let's say like this is the idea of the 15th protocol too, right? Like you've got a target or you're behind or you have like something specific, then gamifying it, not on like an everyday basis, but gamifying it can get you that shot, that infusion of results like instantly. So if you've got like a database health score goal and you're like, man, we could do this in a day if we just like made it fun, then it should be a fun way to do it. But to your point, Ray, like it should not be a way of life. Like in your note, you said this should just be fun, encouragement. That's, you nailed it. It shouldn't be a way of life. It's not like every day they've come in and you have to throw them a circus, right? Like that would be not, that's not sustainable. And no fun for the rest of us.
That was really well said. And it's, to me, it's also an energy booster. Like sometimes we get into a rut and we need something to pull us out of that rut. So, and that can happen with the whole team where the energy just isn't there. So doing something to gamify it, to increase the energy, and you do have to be careful about how you do that. Because like you said, you don't want it to be, okay, now we've set a new standard and you win a prize. Everybody gets a trophy. You don't want it to be that, yet what can we do to raise the energy to get us over a hump?
And the reason we started the spread the love, not the germs thing was to get everyone used to having those care conversations. We weren't calling to try to get business, because right now everyone's going through a really tough time. So for us, the whole point was to spread the love and to get people having those care conversations and just checking in on people. And I working with a lot of agents, a lot of people are terrified of calling the people who they know the most. And they would rather cold call every day, sit open houses, anything besides calling the people who they know. Because, I mean, doing it myself, when I first started and I have been an agent, it was like, I haven't talked to these people in like 2 years. I went to high school with them. It's been a long time. They don't even know who I am. And it does. It builds up that kind of anxiety. And by doing this contest, it kind of took off the pressure. You're not trying, in a lot of ways, they look at it as, I can't pressure these people into buying houses. Like, that's not the point. Point is to check in on them, see how they're doing, and just start building a relationship. They know you're a realtor. When they need you, then they'll call you. So I think that was a really big thing, and I guess why I think they enjoyed it more was that it kind of took off that pressure. Wow, everyone was just really happy that I called, and everyone's answering their phones and they want to talk. And it was more like of a realization and just really kind of kicked off the care conversations. And then, like I said, they really enjoyed it. So we've been surprising them. Like, we don't tell them, like that Monday we tell them, like we did it on Tuesday. So that's kind of where that started, and kind of, I guess, removed that anxiety people were having about calling their sphere, which I understand too. It's their job. They know what their numbers need to be. But just another way to look at it.
We'd all be lying if we said we haven't like thought exactly what Ray said. And I so appreciate you, Ray, because you like made our conversation so real. Like, this is the real thoughts we're having, everybody. To bring it back full circle to motivation, though, when you think about a typical buyer agent, like, what is the typical DISC profile of a buyer's agent? Anybody know? High
DI.
Yeah, you're looking at D's and I's. What is the main fear of a high I?
Not being liked.
Fear of rejection. And so you put a bunch of people whose common profile is I and whose main fear is fear of rejection into a chair where they're going to be rejected daily, multiple times. And it does weird things, like they turn weird. They get weird, y'all. So I think that when you're talking about the motivation or the motivate conversation, like, a lot of that goes back to your weekly 411s and like what Kristen and Jessica and Alicia were saying, like, use their motivation to help them conquer their fear of rejection. So their motivation has to be larger than their fear, or they won't get on the phone. And their fear is of rejection. High D's fear of being taken advantage of, and that plays out a little different in the agent world. You're looking at buyer's agent, like the primary thing you're looking at is, I'm going to be told no. That's my biggest fear in life. Oh, great. Now go get on the phone and dial for 4 hours, and for 3.5 of them, you're going to be told no. Have fun. Bye. I got to go. I have important work to do. Like, they need you to come in there and say, it sounds crazy, but they need you to come in there and say, you're so pretty. Like, I just love you. You look great today. Those shoes are amazing. Like, I don't know what you did different, but your hair looks really good. You are the best human person I've ever met in my whole life. And suddenly they're like, I could call for 5 hours. Keep coming in here and telling me how amazing I am. Like, what do you do to like help them get over the fear of rejection? Is you have to like infuse the opposite, right?
Yeah, because everyone from the one thing, right, Megan? Like wonderfully said, everything from the one thing is about willpower. And certain activities will drain people's willpower differently. And that's one of them based off of their DISC profile.
Totally. And I've ISA'd, like I've done the cold calls. I've been there like 4 hours, and I did it because I wanted to figure out what my agents were thinking and what was going on and why they weren't performing. And I did it. And what I learned was it's actually kind of fun. And it was like a game to me because I'm a high D, and I'm like, boom, nailed it. Beat everybody else. Got 3. Like, it didn't bother me. But when I was in the room, what I saw was somebody would be told to like F off, and then they crumbled. And I'm like, why do you even care? You don't know that person. They could walk by you in the street and it wouldn't matter. And it was a huge aha for me to like bring back in the DISC profile.
So many examples of it. My friend Eli does loan officing for Ryan Holmes, and him and I have worked together for a long time in the same way, right? Like, I love getting in groups like this in short periods and I can talk, but we go like socialize in a large group like this. Or like family reunion for of us go in those big environments. Like, you want it, that like drains my battery quick. Where if I was with Eli, that energizes him. Like he could go, I mean, he gets like double the energy. He can go around all night, right? And I'm like, no, that wore me out. So it's just different ways of looking at it.
Yep. And a lot of them need to celebrate the wins too.
I have so my team lead, her coach is Jordan Freed, so I'm sure a lot of you know him, but he was just telling us this week because we were struggling with motivation. He was like, why don't you tell the agents this? Why don't you say, hey, if I told you lead gen for 2 hours today, then you'll get a $10,000 check. And then most people are like, well, yeah. And you say, well, that's your commission check. If you just did the lead gen, you know, there's your money right there. So I thought that was a nice little motivational thing you could throw into a conversation that Jordan is very wise. And he mentioned that. And I was like, that makes so much sense. Like, that's your money right there. And a lot of them are motivated by money for one reason or another.
Oh, one thing from Bold, the first Bold I ever took, that really stuck with me was, okay, so if you're not going to call people to lead gen, then I want you to call your 2-year-old little girl and tell her that she's not going to be able to go to Disney. She's not going to be able to take that field trip or get those new pair of shoes, and just they went on and on and on. I was just like, wow. She's like, yeah, so how heavy is the phone now? And so that stuck with me. And it's like, wow, holy smokes. So yes, I would definitely rather talk to some people than have to tell your family that, oh, by the way, you're not going to be able to eat today because I was afraid to pick up the phone. So I know that was one bold example that really stuck in my head from a long time ago.
And I think that brings it all full circle, is knowing your people and knowing what motivates them and what their goals are.
So there was a question, and Kelsey, I think you brought it up. I think it's worth exploring in our couple minutes left here is who all attends 4-on-1 meeting. Does team lead get involved every other week? So can you explain that a little bit more and then dive in?
I want to know what you all do, because right now I don't do 4-on-1s with the agents. So we have our lead buyer specialists do them every other week. And they go over the 4-1-1, but like I don't sit in it, and I can see all their 4-1s and I like to look at them, but like what does that structure look for you guys, just in terms of how that works? Anyone?
Well, for me, I do the 4-1-1s for my entire team. We do not have a lead buyer's agent. We've got a lot of newer agents, and so we haven't really promoted one yet. So I do them all. And also I'm on a family team. My parents are rainmakers and listing agents. So they don't like to 4-1-1 each other. So I basically do the whole team, and it's a lot and it takes up most of the day. And we meet every Monday. Every Monday we set the goals for the week. I really can't wait until we have a lead buyer's agent, because then things will change. But for now, I do them. I keep them 20 minutes. We go over their goals, their sales goals, how they did last week. What are they going to do differently this week? What kind of challenges have they come up with? And what can we do to avoid those challenges this week? And just kind of go over their game plan for the week. And it's their time if they need to talk about anything or anything like that. They have their 20 minutes.
Ours is kind of the same. I obviously not an agent, haven't done the agent thing because I can't. So it was determined that I was not the best person to be 4-1-1ing our agents. So I 4-1-1 our rainmaker, and he 4-on-1s me, and then he does the agents. I don't think we're actual goals. It's more of a to-do list. So if I sort of see something like that, then I'll address it and ask, hey, can we get clarification on this? Or kind of like, is this activity really going to get you to, your overall monthly goal, your overall yearly goal kind of thing? But other than that, I don't really touch the 4-on-1s. And then we keep ours to 15 minutes, because any longer than that, it literally is. It's the entire day. And you're like, that entire day was a wash. And Mondays are just knocking things out for what we're gonna do, but like nothing actually gets done. So.
Yeah, that 15 to like 20 minutes is the sweet spot, because we definitely run into situations where we find a lot that is a lot of fluff and a lot of additional conversations that really shouldn't be happening during the accountability meeting, right? Like what I'm hearing both of you guys say is very much like, what was the goal? How do you do? What do you feel about that? What are you going to do differently, right? Which is straight from the MREA. The only thing that's changed, that's since been added, is maybe like, how can we support you, right? Like, what can we help you with? What training can you partake in to help move you forward?
So on that note, any advice
for how to deal with the high I's who kind of need to verbally dump during the 411 and don't really stick to, like, here's the items we want to talk about.
You got to pull it back to
Right
the
afterwards.
Yeah, I don't know if you took any of like Monica Reynolds' classes, but she always says to have like a free hour, right? Like an open door during this hour. If you need to come in and you need to like verbally dump your emotions or whatever, this is the time that you do it. Any other time, it better be on the calendar, and we're sticking to an agenda kind of thing. So that's the way that we operate.
or we'd love to talk about this longer, but we're almost out of time, and I really want to talk about your goals before our meeting's over. But after the 411s, I'd be happy to talk to you if you want to talk about it more. Most of the time, they don't come back.
I know I personally am a high I, so Paul's been helping me with this, but just going into the meeting, having my questions already set based off of what I saw in the 411 really helps. So if anyone else struggles with that, because if not, I just start going like this most of the call and we don't get anywhere. So pre-prepared questions are good.
Yeah, one of the best strategies really that we use is just like a yes how, right? And a lot of it's just circling back and having the strength, and it's brought up quite a bit. Brinley Tucker was my coach. She was the one that first introduced me to that. I'm sure she learned it from someone. But it's really having the strength to say, again, yes, or I'd love to be able to hear that, and here's how. Need you to circle back with me at 4 o'clock when I got some free time, right? And getting through here.
I think, Liz, I saw like your kids wandering up or something behind you, but if you're still able to hear, I think like when you think about the high I or any personality type and you're coaching them too, I think an important thing is to remember to, as a coach, like to make your client, and when you're 411ing people, you're the coach. So your team is your client in that moment. So when you're 411ing them, make your client right. Like don't make them wrong, especially the high I, because that feels like rejection. So if they didn't hit it, like don't make it about right or wrong, just make them right. Like, oh gosh, yeah, I could understand why that would have been difficult for you. Is this still the goal? Yeah, okay, well then like what can we do without making them wrong, so without being like, well, you sucked again, so sorry about that, but you're really bad at your job. Like avoid that sort of a thing. Make them right, and then they'll feel comfortable to move into the goal conversation.
What are you finding is happening? Like obviously this is something that you're struggling with, so what does it look like?
One particular agent, I'll ask her, how does your pipeline look? And she will go through every single person in her pipeline, what she's shown them, where they're at, what's going on in their lives. And I don't know how to rein that in, because every time I've tried, she just kind of like doesn't even listen and talks over me.
Have you ever used a pattern interrupt?
What was that?
Have you ever used a pattern interrupt?
No, I haven't tried that with her.
It may not be a perfect strategy. It does work sometimes. If you use a pattern disrupt and you go in there and you just say something random, it will work. I've used it and it's worked, not all the time, but I've seen it work in other situations when people use it too. So you can just ask and be like, hey, how do you feel about the color blue? Right? Or just anything to like completely stop it.
I think I smell popcorn. That's a good one.
Yeah, what was that, Megan? What was yours?
Craig Goodlips is always like, do you smell that? I think I smell popcorn. Anyway, and then he
I used to have an agent that would do the same thing as well. She's still on my team, but I stopped asking, how does your pipeline look? And I started asking, how many like people do you have that are putting in an offer this month? Right? Like, just give me a number. That's all I want to know.
Last time, and she did the same thing. She said, well, I have this person who's here, and I have this person who's here, and I have this person who may go if we like. So
I don't know how like comfortable with confrontation you are. I'm very comfortable with it. So if somebody, like when you started doing that, my immediate reaction was to be like, I'm sorry, that's not a number. What is your number? Like if you're going over it in your head, like you're trying to figure out sort of like where everybody is in your pipeline in your head, then you don't have your pipeline narrowed down, and I'm going to need you to go back to your like spreadsheet and actually put your pipeline in, and then we can go over this again later, but I just need a number because you have 15 minutes and I don't have time for this story. I don't know.
Or another way to do that too is wow, it sounds like you have got a lot of people that you're working with. So how many, what was that number again? Is more of a, I think for an I, but I mean, I have one as well, so I understand. But yes.
For me, the pattern interrupt works really well for my high I buyer's agent. Usually it goes something like this. Oh, and she'll go, oh, what? And I'll go, oh, sorry, you know, something just came up on my calendar. So what was that number? You know, something like that. It really works for her. And she does the exact same. It doesn't matter how I word the question. She's still going to tell me every single item on that list. So, yeah. Oh, sorry, something just came up on my calendar. Anyway, it's really easy.
Yeah, personally, I mean, the more fun you can make it, the better. That's just me. So whatever you want to throw in there, you know, I would use it.
And the funny thing is, what we would think is as rude, high I's don't think is as rude. So Ray is right. You can usually be really direct, and where it might be rude to an S, an I it's going to go right over their head. Anybody else having any other struggles around this? As we're talking, I'm almost wondering, would it be worth doing a call on a 411 conversation? Like, what should those 411 talks be like?
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that, and then coaching them around when they didn't hit their goals.
Okay.
Again, how to do it in a manner that doesn't come across as, because I'm a high C, I can get very focused, like, here's the numbers, you didn't hit it, what are we going to do? And come across very insensitive, and I need to fix that.
Yeah. Why don't we make that our topic for next week then? We'll dive into the 411 conversations.
Awesome.
Okay. Awesome. Does anybody else have anything else for today?
Thank you to our panelists that came.
Yeah,
I really
thanks, guys.
appreciate everything you're sharing.
Yeah. Thanks for everybody for participating.
Thanks, guys. Can't wait to talk next week. See y'all later.
Bye.